The Dallas Cowboys owner and general manager, Jerry Jones, brought to you by Ford, built for Texas, built for you. Jerry, first off, want to extend some New Year's, Happy New Year's to you and to yours. And, we were on the air on Tuesday when the news came down about John Madden passing. And we were able to extend your statement, and part of which read, I'm not aware of anyone who has made a more meaningful impact on the National Football League than John Madden. That was something that I took away from watching what I did on Christmas Day after thinking about it for a little while. Of all the people, and you are one of those certainly in there with a big impact, what did John Madden in your eyes do for this league?
Well, first of all, Bobby, it's good to be on with you, and good to be on with you with the last day of the year. With all the promise that we've got coming up for this new year and our future. So it's a great time, and it's a pleasure to be on with you guys. John Madden was just as special and unique as any of these tributes that you've read or heard about him. And that's the point. He lived, he walked, so to speak, among various constituencies of the NFL. The number one was the fans, but he carried all the way through, as far as I'm concerned, the entire gambit of people that are involved in the NFL. And he was so consistent. He was a caring person. He was able to really look at and live in, if you will, a broader picture, a broader world. Television can do that for you. But where he really lived his days was in the small things. And I think when we stop and think about it, when we get so caught up, or I stop and think about it, I'm advised a lot of times, boy, Jerry, be careful. You better think about the nuances of the small things, the taste of the hot chocolate, the visit that you're having with someone that isn't exactly at the top of the list for getting first downs for the Cowboys. All of those kinds of things John Madden is about. He lived a life like that, and that's why you're seeing him, the pouring out of expression about him, because he did have that very common thing. I don't know if riding in that bus back and forth across the country slowed it down for him. I'm not for sure, but it sure represents what I think of when I think of John Madden.
Yeah, and, Jerry, I'm 42. So his time as a coach is a little bit before me. Now, I know about it, obviously, but I grew up with John Madden and watching football, and as you mentioned, like the impact on television. Well, this is right at the time when you bought the Cowboys. Like, when did you get to know John? Like, when did you meet him? What was that like?
Well, I was, of course, introduced by virtue of our daily business immediately, because John Madden was such a part of the substance of presenting our games, television, if you will. And he had the reason that he had the authority he had is because he had walked the talk. He had lived it. He was a coach for a short time. You couldn't have been around very long. And really, when you look at the tenure of a lot of coaches, you couldn't have been around and for long, or you would have missed it. On the other hand, though, it was very impactful. I had the advantage with John that one of the people that I know he thought the most of was Al Davis. And Al Davis, you might say, brought him into coaching. John brought himself into coaching, but Al Davis was his early, if you will, not mentor, but early John Madden supporter and builder. And having said that, Al and I were very close. And so my early days in the NFL were colored a lot by Al, in the sense that it involved John, because Al thought so much of John. He knew him. He knew how deep his integrity went. He knew his caring aspect. He knew him as well as anybody living. And so John didn't have to put a resume in front of me to be credible because Al Davis had already made him into something, not made him, but just had made me aware of what John Madden was.
Jerry, there was some good news for Cowboys fans yesterday. DeMarcus Ware named a finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility. How excited were you to see that? And when you guys turned in his draft card in 2005, did you ever anticipate he'd become the player that he did?
Really, it was one of our more memorable times. And the answer is yes, we had been looking for years for someone that might come along and have some of the uniqueness of Charles Haley, if you will, but have the athletic ability that DeMarcus has was something we just had never seen. Well, the day of the draft, Bill Parcells had gotten real excited about Spears. We were trying to go to the 3-4 away from the 4-3 defense, 3-4 being 3 down linemen and outside linebacker types that did your rushing. But you couldn't get there in a year, and that bothered Bill. Well, Spears fit perfectly. He could go either way. And we had 2 number 1 picks. Well, we had decided, and I for sure had decided, that we were going to take Ware. Well, Bill, of course, was really at odds with that, and I just had convinced myself Ware would never be there if we waited until our 21st pick. We had the 11th and 21st pick. So we had quite a foray before the draft, and I turned his card in, and Bill was sitting right beside me and wouldn't say anything to me, and pouting, if you will. Now, you can imagine how that might go. Well, he's writing, and he writes out a contract, and it basically says that if Ware does not average 10 sacks a year for the first 2 years in the NFL, then he got 5 trips a year on my G5 jet airplane with his significant other, if Ware didn't. And, boy, he had it all fixed up beautifully and had signature lines on it, and he slipped it over to me. And, of course, Bill was just trying to break the ice because we had disagreed there on the pick. And so I added an addendum. I said, I so agreed to the above he can have if he doesn't make. But should player make over 10 sacks a year, the airplane will go. Jerry Jones will be on it rather than Bill, with Bill's significant other. And I put a signature line under that. We still have that contract, and it's one of the highlights of my time. But we moved into Ware and gotten to Bill real quick. But Bill, I want to be clear, Bill's one of the greatest experiences and joys and positive experience I had have had in my time in football. So it was just another day in our relationship.
Well, and while there's a lot of excitement about DeMarcus Ware, there was some disappointment about Darren Woodson failing to make the cut. Do you think Darren Woodson is one of the Hall of Fame's bigger oversights at the moment?
Yeah, very much about Darren. Darren's just, in my mind, has to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, that doesn't get you anywhere because Jerry Jones said he has to be. But he's everything when we think of an impact player and think of someone that represents what we would like for the world to see and think and evaluate when they see a name in the Hall of Fame. His background coming to the NFL, his time in the NFL, his leadership ability, what he was as a player, which is the big criteria, all of that, Darren Woodson needs in the Hall of Fame.
Jerry, do you feel that this is a team that may be your best shot at a world title since those mid-'90s teams?
Well, I'm reluctant just because I don't want to jinx it as much as anything. But I like the way that we have evolved relative to what's happened to us injury-wise, availability-wise. We've had early some real unavailable top players because of injury. And that's caused us to get depth now, or get a lot of young players ready to play. And our alternative to young would be a free agent type player that might not have played as much. Well, boy, those guys have gotten all kinds of snaps, and it goes throughout the roster. completely throughout the roster. And consequently, we've got sitting here with our now some of those top players that at least we thought they were going to be top players when we came out of training camp. They've become available. They're out there. They're in shape. They're ready to play. They're playing. And plus, we've got that depth behind them. And so I'm hoping that that's going to be a real advantage for us. As you know, boy, it is so dicey to talk about what happens in the playoffs because we don't have multi-game playoffs. It's all decided in one afternoon or one night, and that's what you've got. So you can have a good team and not get there. I've been fortunate to be involved with three teams, I think, that certainly could have gone all the way over the last 30, 25 years and not gone all the way, any one of them, that would have changed the picture around here a lot. But that's part of what we sign up for. That's the NFL. That's football.
Yeah, and I know anybody that's around the team and close to them and covering them knows how badly you want to win. I know you don't want to jinx it, but does it make you feel, especially with having those recent teams like back in 14 and 16, like restless at all, knowing that, you know, how fleeting it can be, especially when you got a group as talented as this one?
Well, the last sentence you said there, I think it's well recognized that our talent level is recognized, and that's really important because right with ability, maybe every bit as equal to ability is availability. So if our talent is available and our talent is ready to play, I have had current reps going all the way through, whether it's Zeke or whether it's Dak or whoever it is. If that talent's ready to go and we're getting into the playoffs, then that bodes well because this is what you've got when you get there and what you got when you get there in your first quarter, your first half, as you get into the playoffs. And so I don't want to be redundant, but the most encouraging thing about our situation is our talent availability as we sit here today.
Jerry, you talk about availability there with COVID surging not only across the league, but I mean across the entire world right now. Have you guys given any consideration to using the Omni next door as a sort of bubble for the players during the playoffs?
Well, we encourage our players to be smart, and that encompasses everything. And you and I are involved in it every day. I talk a good game, but when I get out in the weeds, I don't practice a good game. I find myself right in the middle of a big conversation with no mask on, for better or for worse. I've got to do better. We have to realize as a team, as an organization, as we move into these playoffs, and we don't have to be told. We can look at the experience that's happening with teams every day, and we can see them shut down or really altered or really compromised by not having players available. We've got a great system in place as I see it for the times right now. And our testing time, our basically a symptoms-based evaluation of where a player is COVID-wise, all of this, I think, is the practical best way for us to work as a league, and it works for the Dallas Cowboys right now, the one we're in right now. Will we make a change if we have to? Of course we will. That's what we've learned as much as anything is the ambiguity that's sitting here with this COVID and the ability to make decisions and try something else.
Now, despite the COVID, and we all know the situation, yours truly, certainly at the moment, but how wild is Jerry Jones getting tonight for New Year's?
Excuse me?
How wild is Jerry Jones' New Year's going to get?
Jerry Jones is going to be a pretty simple, quiet boy tonight. And again, I'm going to practice what I'm sitting here actually referring to, and I'm going to be careful as opposed to New Year's Eves in my life. And I'm going to be thankful to get to be a part of this thing as we wake up tomorrow. I'm excited about being out at that stadium today. I'll be there for the Alabama-Cincinnati game. And so I'm just going to smell the roses here tonight. And if I miss a beat, miss a dance, then it won't hurt, because I have danced these soles off these feet for the last some odd years. And so it won't be that I haven't done it if I don't do it tonight.
Well, we know that it'll be well worth it in what you see on Sunday going into the playoffs. Again, Jerry, Happy New Year's to you and yours. Appreciate the time, and best of luck on Sunday.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed being on with you guys and your counterparts. It's an important part of getting to be involved with the Cowboys to me and visit with our fans like this. So you guys are real important to me, and let's have a big New Year coming up.
We appreciate it. You as well. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.